Hi, and welcome everyone to our latest Dunbanshire Chamber of Commerce session. And welcome to this one, which is going to be focusing on the fantastic Kickstart scheme that's currently available. We'll have a wee when I hand over, we'll chat you through sort of asking questions and the sort of format for that, but certainly give you an opportunity at the end. I'm Damon Scott. I am the Chief Executive of the Chamber. So I'd just like to welcome you all today and thank you for joining us. And we're actually partnering Moiz, who's going to be giving this presentation to help onboard businesses to the Kickstart scheme. So the idea of this is for Moiz to give an overview, to give you an idea of the benefits and the processes involved in getting your business onto the scheme. So I'm going to keep it nice and snappy. So without further ado, Moiz, if I can hand over to yourself.
Thanks, Damon, and good afternoon, everybody. My name is Moiz Nurbhai from MZN Consultancy, but also my other business is Kickstart Scotland. So I'm going to, as Damon says, I'm just going to run through what Kickstart is, how you can apply, and then go through sort of question and answers. So that would be the biggest part we'll spend time on, is what questions and you might have, and hopefully I'll be able to answer them for you. So we're just going to go through a quick presentation, so hopefully it gives you a flavour of the Kickstart scheme, and then it'll take about 15 minutes or so, 10-15 minutes, and then we'll just get into Q&As after that. So what is the Kickstart scheme? So it's a government initiative, which is a £2 billion initiative to create 250,000 new jobs, which are fully subsidised across the UK. Currently in the west of Scotland, we have 650 Kickstarters, whether that's at vacancy stage or actually recruited. And in the UK, we have 150,000, which are at that sort of same stage as well. So it's growing as the weeks and months go on. What the Kickstart scheme does, it supports small businesses, or not just small businesses, but any business, with 100% funding for 100% of the national minimum wage, as well as paying for the, if applicable, national insurance and pension contributions for your business. But I'll talk about that in a little bit more detail later on. In terms of my background, I do a lot of youth work. I work with St Andrew's Ambulance as well, and part of their youth leader. So I've got, with my voluntary experience and skills development that I do with the youth work, this is where Kickstart all came about from my perspective. So let's go on to who can apply. So in terms of Kickstart, it's open to limited companies, charities and CICs. But we're also working with Damon and the Chamber and looking at opportunities where sole traders or partnerships can apply. And we're still working on the details of that. I'm sure Damon may at the end sort of touch on how that potentially could look for those businesses that fall under that category. In terms of the jobs, there must be new jobs. So there mustn't be replacing any planned or existing vacancies, and it shouldn't be causing existing employees or contractors to lose their position or lose their hours. So what that means is if you've made employees redundant over the last sort of number of weeks, months, then there's a chance that you wouldn't get through the program. So just to make you aware of that. Additionally, it shouldn't take a Kickstarter an extensive length of time to do the work that you're asking them to do. So, for instance, they shouldn't have to go on a 6-week training program for them to then start work and actually do the work that you're asking them to do. That's not to say you can't give them skills development and training through the time so they can get something at the end of it, absolutely. But there shouldn't be extensive training for them to start work. So those are the sort of criteria that are sort of laid out. In terms of funding, the business will get 100% of the relevant national minimum wage for 25 hours a week for 6 months. And if applicable, it will cover the national insurance contribution and pension contributions. So what that means is for those young people that are 21 years old plus, they naturally will hit the national insurance threshold. So those contributions will be paid for. And if they're 22 plus, they will also hit the pension contribution requirement. So that again, that will pay for them as well. But I'll give you a scenario. If you have an 18-year-old who you take on, naturally they're not hitting the national insurance contributions, but you can give them more hours and more pay, then they might hit that national insurance threshold. The scheme wouldn't cover for that additional funding that you're giving them, or additional wage that you might be giving them that hits them that threshold. But again, I'll come back to that. I'll touch on that a little bit later on. In addition, you'll also receive £1,500 funding to support in the setup of this Kickstarter and skills development. And that funding could be used for a laptop, it could be used for uniform, safety shoes as an example, and also their skills development, so making sure they're being developed over time. So one of the criteria again that the DWP or job centres look for is that at the end of the 6 months, that this young person walks away with some skills that they can put into their CV and potentially go and get a more permanent position. Blue sky scenario is obviously businesses take these young people on permanently. That'd be the blue sky scenario, but we know that's not going to be the case for everybody, that there is a requirement that these young people, when they do walk away after 6 months, that they're walking away with something in their tool bag to go and apply for a more permanent position. Some common questions that I get asked around the young people. So will I get allocated a young person without a say? The answer is no. You do get to interview these young people, or you follow your normal recruitment process that you might have in place. And roughly for every individual, one sort of person you want to take on, you get about 4 to 5 people applying for that position, and therefore you can interview those 4 or 5 people if you desire. Will you be stuck with a Kickstarter off during the 6 months if things aren't working out? So there's sort of 2 steps to this. First one is if we take the scenario that, say, your young person's always constantly late to work, then the request is that you follow your internal processes to support that young person, whether that is going through your disciplinary procedures that you might have, or your one-to-one conversations to hopefully move them in the right direction. If that doesn't work, then the job centre work coach would step in and support you as a business and also that young person to resolve whatever that issue would be. And if that doesn't work, then that young person would come out of your business and go back into the job centre. You would then be able to re-recruit for that position. You get another 6 months, and you also get another £1,500 funding to set that young person up, your new young person. Does it cost anything to apply? The answer is no, nothing through me. You'll also receive your full £1,500 funding that comes directly to you to use, hopefully, for that young person. Next one is, can I delay taking someone on? Again, yes, the answer is yes. You've got till 31st December to apply for a Kickstarter, but say you apply today and your peak trading is normally till September, as an example, you can delay recruiting that person till September if you wish. So it's almost like you've banked that person, or you've banked that placement there. It's ready to go. You just start your recruitment process in, say, August. Start that recruitment process and then hire them in September. So yes, you can delay that young person. The other question that I haven't put into here is that I get asked is, well, can I start my apprenticeship program? Can I start an apprenticeship program at the same time as a Kickstart? Unfortunately, you can't. They are 2 separate programs. What you can do is you start them on the Kickstart program. At the end of the 6 months, hopefully you want to take this permanent person on more permanently. You can then switch them on to an apprenticeship program if you wish to do so. But that's the stage that you would need to follow. Some good to knows. Your £1,500 allocation comes to you after 2 weeks after the young person started. Your wages, national insurance, pension contributions are paid to you in arrears. So what that would mean is you'd pay month 1, you get that money back in month 2, you pay month 2, you get that money back in month 3. So you're aware. Also, you can pay more than the national minimum wage, and you can offer them more than 25 hours. However, that additional will not be funded by the government. They will only fund you the national minimum wage up to the 25 hours, and it's relevant to their age group, so depending on how old they are. You'll also only get funding for people that the DWP have introduced to you. So what that means is you can't do a recruitment campaign out there and go and target all these young people to say, come and apply to me, come and get a job. What you can do is you can put a vacancy out there, but you must be referring that young person back to the job centre for the job centre work coach to refer that young person to you. So how it will work is the young person must be on universal credit. They must be attached to a work coach within the job centre, and they must be in this 16 to 24-year-old bracket. So that's the 3 criteria that a young person must fall into before they can get referred on to a business. So if you do know somebody, you've got somebody in mind that might benefit from coming in working with you, they can do, as long as they fit those 4 criterias. And effectively, once you get to vacancy stage and the vacancy is then live, all you need to do is tell that young person to go speak to your work coach and tell them to apply for this position or refer them to that position. And then they just follow the normal recruitment process, send you a CV, etc. And then you can hire them effectively from that point on. You also need to be set up on PAYE, and that's how you'll get your wage funding coming back to you. So that will come. Should be linked to HMRC. As soon as HMRC that the young person's been paid, that then triggers that payment to come back to you as a business. So you need to have that in place. Just the other things to think about is insurances, in particular employee liability insurances, staff policies, recruitment and skills development of the young person. We can support with all of that, and I'll talk to you about that on the next slide as well. But just those elements to think about. So example, employee liability insurance is a must. You must have that. It's a requirement if you are going to be employing staff in your business. So how we can help you. So as I said earlier, the application process through us is free through kickstartscotland.co.uk. We have teamed up with other small businesses, and as you know, we've linked up with the Chamber as well to supply with HR, recruitment, onboarding support, as well as assisting in employee relation activity as well. From our perspective, we deliver skills development from a young person, social media marketing as an example. We offer over 26 different skills development sessions, and one of our flagship programs is project management for non-project managers. So if you've got projects happening in your business, we'll be supporting, we would have programs in place to give them that, the overview of how to project manage within a business, targeted to young people and targeted to small businesses. Also, we can support with beyond the 6 months. If you're looking and thinking about an apprenticeship program for that young person in month 4, month 5, it's actually working out really well, then that's where you can get in touch and we can hopefully start that process for you in terms of finding the right apprenticeship scheme for you. And our support packages start from about £65. Just lastly for me, in terms of what do you need, what information do we need for you to apply? So we need your company's house, reference number, charity number, etc. We need to know what the job role is. So what is it you're looking for that young person to do? Information to show that the job placement is new jobs for a Kickstarter and it's not replacing anybody. And the last piece will be around how you will skills develop this young person. You can outsource that, and and obviously you get that £1,500 grant funding to support you with that. That's it from me. We'll get into Q&As, but before that, I'll pass over to Damon. My information's there, but obviously, connecting with Damon and the Chamber, you can obviously have a chat with Damon, or and that information, me and Damon have regular catch-ups anyway. We can have a conversation. So either come through me, or we can go through Damon if you wish. But please get in touch. But Damon, over to you, and then we'll get into Q&As.
Thanks very much. Well, I think you've covered most of what I would have introduced people to. So I'm hoping everyone can see the value that's available there. I guess I'd just add a few things, which is there's really in terms of this program, there's very little risk to the business. So, you know, if you want to sign up for it, it's not overly cumbersome. You've got the support of ourselves and Moiz. And if you didn't find the candidates coming up were suitable, you know, there's no obligation. You can pull out of it. You can put it back. You can do whatever you want. So I think it's a bit of a no-brainer. If this sounds like something of interest to you, you know, go for it and see where you get to. I'd also like to input in terms of the feedback we're getting from the businesses that are taking up this scheme. The quality of the candidates is really surprising. Possibly, I'm not sure, Moiz might have more insight into this, but some of them are, you know, maybe we're just taking one through the chamber and it'll be a digital and admin post. And we talked about an apprenticeship, and the person thought that this would be more suitable because they just want to add 6 months of experience to their CV. 24-year-old, 2 degrees, and I think they think 6 months will give them the experience to fill in some of the practical elements of their CV to make them far more employable. So that's a good example of someone who they just want the 6 months. So that works for us, sort of thing. So there's some very compelling reasons to get started. I'm delighted we've got this partnership in place, and we'll definitely promote the support packages. I'm sure, you know, if you come to us that you know, you've got that 1,500. We'd be delighted to provide any expertise. And again, one of the things that we're starting to do is get some of our chamber experts involved to support the apprentices as well, the Kickstarters, I'll call them. You know, so for instance, we're providing training in Office 365 and social media, for instance. So you can dip into that to get some of that expertise through us as well. And use your funding for that. As I mentioned, we're looking at some project work for some businesses that don't fit into this framework or aren't in the position to take the businesses on themselves. So we're actually looking at a partnership program whereby the chamber employs those individuals, and we were talking about potentially some may not have, you know, a requirement for a full-time. So if we can buddy up to businesses, as long as we've got a really strong project. So there's some ideas that are being developed. So I would highly recommend that I'll send everyone an email on the back of this, so you can, if you need to register interest with us on any front or want any more information, you can just ping something back to us. And finally, just to finish off my bit, if you're not a chamber member already, there's part of chamber membership includes a raft of HR, in particular, it's HR, tax, legal, and health and safety built-in services. So we work with a business called Quest, who deliver it for the whole of the UK through British Chambers of Commerce. So there are hundreds of documents and policies, from contracts to procedures, letters, templates that will help you with this. And for small businesses, I may as well make the point that the membership's only £140, so you know that will save the £1,500 you'd probably have to spend with an HR company to provide that support. So again, give me a shout if you'd like to get access to those resources, and they also have helpline backup to the policies and procedures as well. So I think that's it from me, apart from maybe one sort of thing I'll maybe kick things off with the first question, Moiz. So as far as I understand it, there may well be the opportunity. This runs up to December, so you could potentially even have, for instance, I know we'll only have ours for 6 months, so I'd probably be looking to get at least 2 Kickstarters during the period. So if you could just give us an idea about the sort of end of year deadline.
Yeah, so the deadline at the moment is 31st December to put your application in. There is talk about it being extended into 2022, but it's just talk at the moment. So if you to get your application in by the end of the year, effectively you hopefully start that young person in January, and therefore the last payments will be made roughly around June, July time 2022. So you can sort of wait to apply if you wanted to, if you didn't want to do it, immediately. But as I said earlier on, you could do it today, but then hold on to that vacancy and just not even don't advertise it. You can do it at a later point. I see 2 questions come up around sole trader. So Brenda and Laura will quickly just touch on that. So as Damon mentioned, in terms of the scheme to apply directly through me and putting that through into the system, sole traders can't apply directly. But what we're working on with Damon is actually where Damon becomes, or we become the employer on your behalf effectively. So we take on that young person on your behalf. There is going to be some restrictions to that, and we haven't finalized those parts yet. But that's what we're going to work with Damon to come to a conclusion with, hopefully soon. The other way of applying, if you were if you wanted to, you could apply through Adecco joint ventures if you wanted to, but there's a lot of restrictions in that. There's a lot of hours restrictions in that, and there's a lot of, you don't get the full funding payments. It's a lot more restrictive in terms of how that works. So the program that I know Damon's coming up with is much more enhanced than that, I think. So Damon, do you want to expand on any of that further?
Not really, no. I think the main thing for us would be to have the, and it probably will more likely be in the sort of more digital admin sphere. And again, when we return to some level of normality, obviously we've got quite a big resource here, so we can actually provide loads of facilities to help upskill those individuals and have them, and we can seat probably 12 people in our conference room, for instance, and with screens and equipment sort of thing. So there's opportunities there, and opportunities to provide group sort of training sessions for them, as well as sort of connecting them peer to peer. But I think it would be very much about knowing that they would have a really strong 6-month project, and there's a bit of due diligence in terms of what the person taking on using that person, the Kickstarter, for, to make sure that they come out at the end of it with well managed and some really strong outputs for themselves, sort of thing. So that would be a key part of it. So what we'll do is make sure that we get your registrations of interest after this to in fact, if you're interested in that, just I'll send out an email, so you can just reply to the email if that's something that interests you. And okay, did you catch any other questions, Moiz?
Yeah, there's a couple come on. We'll open up to the voice as well. So if you wanted to shout out, please do so. But I'll go through what we've got here. So John asking around students are about to complete their course, can they apply? The answer is yes, they can apply, as long as they, again, going back to, as long as they're on universal credit and they're in the job centre circle. So the job centre need to know about them. So, a student that's not working, absolutely, if they are in the job centre universal credit, they're attached to a work coach, and you've got a position that comes up, then they can apply. And as Damon has mentioned, we've got a number of people that are at college leavers or have left college or university, etc., that we have placed into positions. So Damon has points out one, there's a HR team down south, that young person is finishing his degree in HR and was on universal credit, got them on there, and he's now attached to a HR business down south. So there are a number of ways, but those young people need to be registered effectively for them to be transferred over. So again, John, if you know individuals that are knocking on your door going, I'm interested in this, then they need to make sure that they're part of that universal credit and with the job centre to make sure that they can therefore apply. Tony, in terms of can Kickstarters work some of the time from home? Yeah, absolutely. So it is just like a normal job. So if you need them to work full time from home, part time from home, or 100% of the time in an office, obviously COVID restrictions, etc. Yeah, you dictate that. They're your employees. You decide how you want them to work. That's not a problem. Laura, you've got a sort of secondary part around do you have to use PAYE? So yes, unfortunately, you do have to use PAYE because the HMRC needs to see that the payment's gone through from a wages perspective and the young person has been paid. So it has to go through PAYE. And the specific types of jobs usually. So yeah, in terms of what you can do, it's open to all sectors and it's open to all types of businesses. You've got bookkeeping, accountancy work, 100%. Yeah, I've literally just yesterday we've put a vacancy out for an accountant looking for exactly that. They just want to make sure they can deal with numbers. They've got Excel knowledge, or they can use software. They may not know how to use the software in depth, but they're astute enough to be able to pick up the learning of software. Sage, for instance. So there's I think I've got about 4 or 5 accountants that are going through the application process. We've got a couple of law offices as well that are going through that. So yeah, it's open to a wide variety of individuals. The advantage is that the young person should be interested in applying for those positions. So you're not just given somebody going, right, here's a young person, off you go. That's who you've got. You get to interview. So you're able to put them through some of the testing. If you wanted to go, if you wanted to say, here's an Excel spreadsheet, can you add up this column? How do they do that? Can they do that through, the sum total and all of that type of thing? So if you've got things that you want to make sure they didn't know how to do, then test them on it, as you would do through a normal interview process, bearing in mind that some of these young people might be 18-year-old and this might be their first job. So go easy on them as well. So they might know how to do it, but you might need to just make sure that you don't freak them out too much with too much testing. But please do that. The other one, what marks a strong program, strong application? So all your applications come through to me before it goes into the DWP. So I review every single application before I input it. If there's something not quite right on the application, I'll ping it back to you and say, can we add this? But it all comes through to me. So where we are at the moment, I'm at a 95% success rate of application approvals. The ones that haven't been approved is because of some sort of financial check that's in the background, or they've made people redundant within a short period of time, and then they've looked for this Kickstart scheme, which then obviously jars with, well, hang on, you made people redundant, but then you want to recruit. That doesn't quite equate. So they're sort of the reasons why people have been rejected, and there are other starlight checks that happen that we don't get told about what they are, but it's an automated process that happens.
I'd like
so in terms of, sorry.
So I was just going to reiterate in terms of, it's you can dictate what you want, and as I said, make sure you're pitching it right. So it is very much like a recruitment process. You can decide what you want of them to apply. So if you want to see, copies of their CV, you can do that before you shortlist any to take forward to interview. You can decide what questions you ask of them. And you can even obviously sort of have a look at for us, actually, to be honest, a straight out of school wouldn't have been right for us. So ending up with someone who's sort of in their 20s is absolutely spot on for the sort of person we need for that role. Whereas other people might be thinking, well, actually, no, training someone up from scratch would be absolutely ideal for the sort of post that we've got. So I think definitely you have. I'd just like to reinforce the fact you've got control of that quality control. And just to remind you, you don't have to take anyone on if you don't think there's anyone in that pool that's correct for you. And also the DWP does the work in terms of the advertising the position for you, and goes and matches those that might be available as well.
So just to finish off, John, on your what makes a strong application when it comes over to me, the biggest element that if I was to say where you spend most of your time is around skills development. So what is it you're going to be doing, and how is it you're going to be developing that young person? So as an example, when I put my application through to the DWP, when I put everybody together and how it presents, the 3 questions that get asked is, what's the job role? First one, and that's pretty simple. It's just a 1 line. The second question is not making anybody redundant, and this job's off was Kickstarter, so that evidence there. And it normally gets to about 2 pages for me where I send that in, but that's me doing that. You don't need to do that. It's just me. And then the last bit of when I demonstrate around skills development to the DWP, that goes to about 4 pages worth of demonstration of how that business, not just that one business, but the collective businesses that apply are going to demonstrate how they're going to skills develop the individual. And I don't mean you doing a 4-page essay to me. That I'm not meaning that. I'm just meaning that you just have what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. And if that's a paragraph, 2 paragraphs, you're outsourcing it to an agency, you're going to do it. And here's the things that we're going to do. We're going to cover CV writing, we're going to cover communication skills, and you're covering those bits off. That's effectively what we need, that we can then put that through into the application in conjunction with all the other things that I would put in there to make sure it's a strong application on everyone's behalf. Tony, how many people can we take on? Sorry, Andy, yes, presentation size will be covered. Tony, how many people can take on? So the unofficial, and it isn't written anywhere, how the DWP generally work it. So for every 1 Kickstarter you take on, they look for you to have already staffed 3 people in general, okay? It's not official anywhere. There's not it's not in terms and conditions, but that's roughly the scenario you take on. I have got several businesses, and when I mean several, are probably about 70 to 80 businesses that are 1 person. They're just a one man show, taking on 3 or 4 people, and they've been approved. I've got a couple of businesses that are maybe I'm talking about 15 businesses that are, again, 1-man band. They've requested 7 people and they've been approved. When it gets to about beyond that drop off starts to happen, where it's a bit more challenging. And the reason why it becomes challenging is because the justification of what the job centre look for, what the DWP look for, is if you take on, let's just pick 5 people. If it's just you and your business and you take on 5 people, how are you going to develop those as well as run your business and all the things you have to do in your business, especially if you're on your own? It's not just about meeting clients and winning clients and project working, as well as networking, all the things that come up in your business. If all of a sudden you've now got 5 members of staff with you, how do you develop those 5 members of staff, manage them, support them, develop them in that context? So that's where that skills development becomes even more important, that you demonstrate that around how you're going to do that. But again, we can talk about that if you wanted to on more of a one-to-one basis, if you've got a particular set in mind. So do get in touch if you wanted to talk about that further. Jim, information I have from the Pinterest Trust is that we need to be able to provide 3 placements as a minimum to apply, qualify. Nope, not true. You can take on 1. That's not a problem. I'm not quite sure why they're saying 3. So we've got, as Damon has just demonstrated, he's taken on 1. I've taken on 1. There's several businesses taken on 1, so not a problem with that. Andy, should the person secure employment elsewhere either at the end during the 6 months can apply for another person. Yeah, again, so if they do move on, so either moving on from they just haven't worked out for you, they've moved on because they found another job, effectively that vacancy, we just switch that vacancy back on again for you then to go and recruit for another person. If you wanted to take on another person, so you've already got one started and you want to take on a second person, then we go through the application process again, but you're already in the system at this point, and therefore we can add it. It makes it a little bit easier in terms of being able to add a second person on. And actually thinking about it, Tony, in terms of your question around how many people can a business take on, one of the ways that I recommend a business doing is if it is just you on your own and you say in your mind you want to take on 5 people, I would probably say start with 2, recruit, get through the system, get those approved, and then come back and go, Moiz, can we add another 3 on? Because you're already in the system, it just makes that a little bit easier to go out and add those people on. Hi, Damon.
I was just going to add, just to, because I think Andy missed the start, but just mentioned the timescale on the 6 months. The program's due to run till December, and that means that you can take someone on any time before. You can, as long as you start them or have your application approved by December, at the end of December, then they can start. But you can also, at the moment, obviously, with it only being the start of April, you could have them back to back. So potentially, if you had someone, I was explaining earlier that the Chamber's got someone who's got 2 degrees, they just want the practical experience to build their CV and make them more employable, and they'll be moving on at the end of the 6 months. Absolutely fine. That's great if they can get that out of it, and we can have someone, a 24-year-old with 2 degrees working for us. Great opportunity, and highlights the quality that is out there. But on the same said, assuming I'm confident this will work swimmingly, and we would be looking to sort of take on another Kickstarter, sort of to for another 6 months to continue that, because I don't think that would count as a existing job just because we'd had a Kickstarter in that position. Moiz, I don't, you won't have come across that yet, but I can safely assume that's probably not the case.
Yeah, no, that's the information we've got. It would be okay to do that. Yeah.
Okay.
That's no questions on the chat. Is there anybody who wants to just come off mute, and any other questions?
We've got a very shy selection of delegates today. With here's Tony. He's come good. But normally it's the odd one that hasn't got the camera on. But obviously, maybe you're like Moiz, and people are worried that it's going to be April Fool's jokes. He was looking very nervous at the beginning because his household's in the April Fool's vibe today. But Tony, were you going to come in?
No, I was just showing my face.
All right, just to show us you're a real person. Good. Well, let you wrap up, Moiz. If there's nothing else, I will ping out an email after this so we can get the ball moving with anyone who wants to. Yeah.
So if there's no further questions, obviously Damon will send out some further information with website link and recording of the presentation as well. If you want to watch back on anything, then you can do. But if you wanted to speak one-on-one and wanted to have a bit more of an in-depth conversation about your business, again, with what Damon will send out, we can get some time in the diary. If you want to sort of cover off specifics about your business, then we can certainly have a look at how we can do that for you. And that's it from me.
Great. Okay. Well, thanks again, Moiz, for a really thorough insight, and thanks to everyone for attending and for asking such useful questions. Actually, because they've highlighted some really key areas I'm sure are relevant to everyone there. So no, that's absolutely brilliant, and I would thoroughly recommend that everyone gets on board of this. And I think, just to reiterate, the bigger picture is that you will, even if it's just for the 6 months that they use it, you will be helping develop our young people's skills with this program, and undoubtedly they will add something to your business. So please do embrace it and get in touch. The other thing I was going to suggest, that just one point that occurred to me, was that there actually may be, at the moment, particularly with the way everyone's working, that we can, you could recruit individuals from across the UK, because I don't know if you just want to finish off on that before we shut down, but people are working remotely, and there may be some projects that are very suited to remote working, and you want the best candidate, so you're more than happy to have someone down in Sussex, take it on. So Moiz, do you want, because you've got an example of that, have you?
Yeah, we've got a company that is doing website development, etc. And that's what they do. That's their business. And they're based in Windsor, in fact, but they are UK wide. They don't mind if they're in the Highlands, and they don't mind if they're down in Plymouth. It doesn't really matter, because it's a remote role. And therefore the candidacy is able to open up to obviously the whole of the UK effectively. So if you've got those roles those roles that are remote, that are the admin roles, the digital support roles, marketing roles, those type of things, you're not just limited to your postcode area, though that's what your preference might be. It could be you advertise there first, and that's what you can do. You can go local. If that's not working, you can then broadcast that wider, maybe Scotland. If that doesn't work, then you can broadcast that wider to UK wide. So again, you have that in your ability of opening up the scope of where the young people can come from, especially if it's a particular skill you're looking for and they can work remotely, then why not?
Okay, that's absolutely fantastic. So thanks everyone again for attending, and we hope to see you in some form or other again. Thanks. Bye.